InfoSec years ago used to mean something. It was the big event of the year.
If I hear anyone else tell me that AI is one of the biggest risks that we face, to humanity, I'm going to scream.
It's the same conversations, the same patterns. We're not solving anything. We're just covering the same old ground.
I've given up on the larger conferences. Simple as that, because it is those same conversations.
For me, it's around connecting and catching up with people, although I'd argue I could do that better at community events than I can at InfoSec.
Now it's just become a big, fat, money-grabbing, greed-fueled.
You do know you're talking to a Yorkshireman. You should never put the word only in front of pounds, let alone 20,000 of them.
It wouldn't be worth the money if it was free, because going in there is such a hostile, crowded environment.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Razorwire. Now today we are going to be discussing something that has been hotly debated over the last month or so, depending upon when this comes out, around events. What are good ones? What are bad ones? How's it evolved over time? Why all of a sudden are we starting to get charged to go to events? Whereas before, you would have to pay potentially a gate charge, but before that, everything was free. So come with me on a journey with three of my favorite guests to discuss this particular interesting issue. And in order to discuss this important ramifications around cybersecurity events, the pricing of those events, and the various other different topics that we are going to explore today around cybersecurity events, I have brought in three of the best people I can think of to discuss this. So I have Lisa, Gary, and James. Since James is the newbie here and hasn't been here before, I will let James start with an intro, then we'll move over to Gary and then over to Lisa. So James, your time to shine.
Okay, James Bohr. I do various security things, chartered security professional, way more public speaking than anyone would like, particularly at community events, and have all sorts of opinions about speakers being paid.
Fantastic. Gary?
Hi, Gary Hibberd, co-founder of Consultants Like Us, and we're all about information security, data protection, privacy, and of course, artificial intelligence. And like James, do a fair amount of public speaking around the world. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Fantastic. And Lisa?
Hi, everyone. So I'm Lisa. I'm the founder of the AI and Cybersecurity Association and also my consultancy business, which is Unity Group Solutions. I offer security awareness and culture change, and I work with a variety of clients. And like James and Gary, I do a lot of speaking when I can at various events, like to go to various events when I can, and yes, do have some opinions around events in cyber at the moment.
Fantastic. And obviously everybody knows who I am. I don't do a lot of speaking events. I just do the podcast as a general rule. I'm better in front of the camera than I am in real life, although apparently that's starting to change. A lot more people are starting to ask me to do this. Anyway, cybersecurity events. I have been in this industry for 30 years, as a lot of people know. I don't need to belabor that. And one of the key events that has always been there since the year dot has been InfoSec. It's now called InfoSec Europe. I know there's a lot of other InfoSecs that have popped up around all over the place, but that was the original one. There was a few smaller events, sort of like distributor events and so on and so forth, but an actual kind of full-on event. InfoSec was really the thing and always kind of has been. And many, many years ago, it was down in the Olympia. What would tend to happen is basically everybody would descend, go and have a speak with the vendors, go and see the mates, go and see people they knew in the industry. Then everybody would gravitate out to the various different pubs that surround the place to have more discussions, normally over something golden and slightly bubbly. And it was just generally considered to be kind of like the event for InfoSec to go to. Is that fair to say for just the InfoSec event, or am I missing something out, guys?
I mean, it was in my younger days, but in those days, a lot of it was just for the free T-shirts, honestly.
The swag was a lot better back then.
Yeah, the swag was a lot better. I think from my perspective, like your good self, I've been in this industry since year dot, since 30 years, and started out going to InfoSec. I'll be honest, over the years, I've tended to go once, miss a couple of years, go again, miss a couple of years, go again, until I started doing consultancy. And then I found that actually going along and speaking to the vendors, they didn't have a lot to say. There was not a lot of innovation. I was hearing the same kind of conversations quite often. So it started to then be, I would go and then miss 3 or 4 years, and then I'd go again, miss the 3 or 4 years. But I am going this year. I've got another reason to go along as well, because of where it is and because of other events around it. But I'm going to go along, and I'm going to be intrigued to see if the vendors have got anything new to say, and indeed if the people that I mix with have got anything new to say, and what the conversations are.
Yeah. So for me, I've been going since around 2009, and my first foray into going to InfoSec, when it was at Olympia, wasn't actually so much the main thing. It was because my ex at the time was working for Portcullis Computing Security. It's now been brought out by Cisco. But Portcullis took over one of the nearby pubs and completely rebranded it as the Portcullis Arms. And so that was where I spent a lot of my my time, rather than going around and speaking to the vendors. I'd have a quick foray in to have a look, but then back out into the Portcullis Arms. And that worked really well, but very similar to Gary. Since then, I would go a few years, maybe have a bit of a break. Of course, we had the pandemic; we couldn't go then. But I always found I got more value, and this is only me, got more value out of the fringe events that were going on around the main show. Pentest Partners always do a really good one in the Fox. Of course, there's Cyber House Party. There's all those things, but there are other ones going on as well. I had better conversations and much more value out of the fringe events than the actual main one itself.
Absolutely. I mean, it did move over to the Excel a number of years ago. And I found in the early days when it first moved over, there was not really a lot out there. I preferred Olympia because you could kind of get out and see these fringe places. But in the early days of the Excel, there wasn't a lot else there. There's a lot more now. There's a lot more going on. But I tend to agree with you, Lisa. I see a lot of people who spend a lot of time. They go to the event, they do the kind of round robin 2 or 3 times around just to see what's going on. And then they go outside, and everybody basically then spends most of their time in various different pubs chatting with the various different people who come and join them. And, speak to the various different, it's normally distributors that have the local pub. And of course, we've got Pentest Partners with Ken and Gerard and what have you take over the Fox. And I've noticed over the last few years, they've slowly taken over more and more and more of the floor in there. So it'll be interesting to see what's happening this year. But we do have other events. We have things like Black Hat and what have you. There's a lot of events that are starting to pop up all over the place. And something that you guys mentioned around COVID really changed everything, I think. Because before COVID, for security events, you had the big ones and the fledgling ones that are a little bit larger now. But you used to have a lot of Thursday evenings, didn't you? It was like distributors would say, come along, 3 pints, you can speak to a couple of vendors and all the rest of it. And because everybody, working for companies based in London tended to be in London every single day before hybrid working became popular, it was good to go to. You got to see and experience things. But then COVID hit, and for a year and a half, 2 years, literally no events happened. We had these terrible virtual events that I don't even know what they were about. But the history of our cybersecurity environment, we're seeing a lot more and a lot bigger events nowadays. And that's good. I think that is good. It's good to go and see what's going on in the industry and what have you. I kind of agree with Gary. Going in and seeing some of the vendors, you kind of get the same message.
Yeah. Slight segue, but it is a very important point. So I am the co-founder of the Real Cyber Awards, and we did that a couple of years ago. We started it. Basically, Lee and myself, my business partner and myself, we just went to a number of awards, and we always left feeling a little bit cold, a little bit, even if we won, if we were shortlisted, great. If we won, better, I suppose. But we always walked away with just an empty feeling of, well, that was all right, but there's more fun to be had with this, with awards and such. This year, we are putting on the Real Cyber Awards and conference for very similar reasons, that we go to conferences, both fringe and more well-established, I guess, and we always walk away just saying, if I hear anyone else tell me that AI is one of the biggest risks that we face, to humanity, I'm going to scream. If I'm going to hear just one more vendor telling me that it is AI enabled, I'm going to scream. So we were like, right, what could we do? Because we're definitely not one for just throwing mud at the and stones at the industry. If we see a problem, we go, well, how can we fix it? What could we do that will be better? And with the greatest respect to a lot of the fringe events, it's the same kind of conversations. It might not be AI, but it may be talking about the latest hacks, and every 39 seconds someone's going to be hacked, and talking about firewalls at a very technical level, which are great for a certain audience, but they can be quite alienating and quite feel a little bit cold for some people. So we said, look, let's run a conference that is more human risk based, focused on on topics that the industry needs to know. So have you got a book inside you? Do you want to get published? Well, here's how you get a book published. If you want to get a podcast started? Well, here's some people who started podcasts. How to get started in this industry, and how to get your voice heard on stage as well as on a virtual stage. We just said, right, let's do a conference that, yes, it's information security, data protection, privacy, and of course, AI will get a mention. It isn't just the same conversations time in and time out. And that is the problem with a lot of conferences, both the free ones and the ones that you are paying for. They're just saying the same thing.
I couldn't agree more, Gary. I go to so many, and I've had this conversation with my husband actually weeks ago. It's like, it's the same conversations, the same patterns. We're not solving anything. We're just covering the same old ground. And by the way, yes, I might have the AI and Cybersecurity Association, but I completely agree with you about this AI enabled, and AI is going to cause the destruction of humanity and all that. And that's why I actually set it up, to try and just get some clarity around the noise, Gary. So I just wanted to say,
listen, I have no problem with AI. It's an amazing technology, and I don't want this to just go down the AI route, because I think it's an important conversation we have to have. AI governance. I was speaking at DTX Manchester a few weeks ago. I asked 100 people in the audience, are you using AI, and have you got it enabled in your business? All hands went up. When I asked them about AI governance, all hands went down. So there's a big conversation to be had at your association. It's absolutely much, much, much needed. What we can't have is just what I did feel, again, and it's no disrespect to DTX Manchester, but when I walked around, that was the last sort of major conference I went to, I walked around, it almost felt like the vendors had just simply Tipexed AI into all their livery on the signs. And I was like, oh, come on, guys, come on, you've got to go deeper than this. Don't just keep saying, but it's AI enabled. It's got AI, it's powered by AI. I'm like, come on, let's have a deeper conversation. It's here. If we all believe that walk towards the dystopian view of AI, then clearly we're going to be in a situation of, well, do you know what? All bets are off. Well, let's just go pack up and go home, because the end is nigh. But we don't feel that. There is things that we can do. And we, within our industry, are perfectly placed to do this. We've seen it. It's cyclical. We've seen new technologies. Most of us were there at the birth of the web. We've heard about, I'm hearing the phrase, AI is like the wild, wild west. And I'm like, where have I heard that phrase before? And he's like, we've heard this before.
During virtualization, GDPR, I mean, all of these. I've done plenty of videos where we talk about the fact that, the marketing around this place is like Ouroboros, the snake swallowing its own tail. It just goes in a cyclical fashion constantly. And it's all driven by marketing. And marketing has changed. I mean, events have changed. But I'll hand over to James, because I know he wants to probably put his word in here.
I mean, I was going to say I've given up on the larger conferences. Simple as that, because it is those same conversations. I remember when we had automation, which was AI at the time. Robotic process automation was tagged as AI. Next year, I hear quantum's going to be back. So you can put your money on that, on the predictive markets. But it is just this cycle. And I've had enough of the big commercial conferences which keep repeating it and are run by vendors. So now I'm pretty much only going to the community conferences, the B-sides type ones, not just B-sides, but all of the others like Hack Glasgow, like SteelCon, because that's where different conversations happen, because they've got sponsors, but the sponsors are there because, frankly, it's a good way to prove that you're credible in the community rather than just throwing flyers at people and stealing email addresses to spam people for the next 25 years. I've got some who are still doing it from the first InfoSec I went to. It is vital that it changes, but the commercial ones they seem completely tapped out.
Yeah. I think, James, all of you really, your thoughts around this, because when I go to a conference, whether it be a fringe event or whether it be a mainstream event, from my mind, there's got to be a reason. There's got to be a strategy to it. What am I going for? What is the outcome? What am I hoping to get? It might be that I just want to go and connect with a number of people in a city because I've not been down to, I don't know, I haven't got down to Bristol, so I'm going to get down to see an event and I'll go and meet up with a few contacts that I haven't met with for a while because Bristol's quite a long way to go from Yorkshire. You've got to have a strategy and a reason to do it. And I think, if there's one piece of advice, if I may give it to any marketing teams who are working for the large conferences, is you've got to not just sell these vendors are going to be here. It's got to be, well, what transformation? What do you want? What's going to change about me for coming to this event? And I think a lot of people miss that when they're putting on events. They just simply go, oh, we've got this vendor and these vendors and these and this company, and we got, we're sponsored by this, whatever. It's like, okay, well, what are they bringing to the party other than a logo?
Well, I think this is one of the big problems I have, because the original kind of InfoSec, let's just use InfoSec as an example, because we're going to be talking about some of the pricings shortly. It was a good chance for us all to just meet up. In the OC, there were vendors there. You go along and they do the spiel, but it was a lot nicer. It was a lot easier. And it was kind of like, from sort of like the early 2000s through to kind of maybe 2010 or so. But then, of course, security stopped being just this weird thing that everybody thought was possibly important but didn't really want to do, to becoming this massive moneymaker. And we saw the explosion of vendors. And I think a lot of these events that suddenly started popping up all over the place realized that, they could charge quite significantly for the vendors to go to the event. It stopped from being something that was just interesting to go to, where you'd have those conversations and see cool new technology. I mean, the sort of early 2000s, between 2000 and 2015, we started out with no tools at all. We were lucky to have email security, but as everything changed, we got more firewall technology, and then we got like software as a service technology, and so on and so forth. It was a great way to find out what was going on in the industry. The events have changed from being, yes, money generation and showcasing products, to becoming more about VCs, PEs who've just bought all of these new kind of predominantly Israeli and US companies and buy our products. I can go to a lot of these booths and there's normally just like one techie there, one person who knows about security. There's a million sales and marketing people there who quite frankly, I'm not being rude to them, but when you're sat in front of a CISO trying to convince them, buy our product, the CISO's not going to buy it from you. They're going to buy it when they've had a conversation with somebody who actually knows the industry, which is what we've done. This is why we have the podcast. I wanted to get to the meat and bones with the wonderful people like yourself to talk about what security means and what matters to the community. Now it's just become a big, fat, money-grabbing, greed-fueled, buy a section of, where you can put up a stall and, you'll have millions and millions and millions of people coming along, because back in the old days, there was a lot of people who went. But now we've got today, and with what InfoSec have pulled, and I'm sorry, InfoSec Europe, if you're watching this, but, charging 50 quid for a ticket like a month before the event, whereas previous years it was, okay, yeah, you'd pay the gate charge if you went on the day and you didn't pre-book a ticket. But let's be honest, most of us InfoSec people didn't really know if we were going until maybe a week or two beforehand, where we'd sign up and what have you. But it just seems to be that, these events are now trying to find desperately ways to get more money, because I don't think the footfall is there like it used to be. Is that fair?
That's completely fair. And the reason goes back to what Gary said. It's what's the actual value in going? If I'm going to InfoSec Europe, the real question is why. I know all of the vendors who are going to be there. I know who to speak to at those vendors if I actually want a conversation with them. And those are not the people who are going to be on the booth trying to scan my badge to send me emails. I'm already getting emails from them. But it's not just that. It's also when you go to the smaller conferences where you've got people who are speaking, they're speaking about an issue that matters to them. They're in the community. They know what issues matter to the community. It might be aimed at someone who's brand new. It might be aimed at cynical, bitter old men like myself and Gary and yourself, Jim.
Me.
But it's aimed at someone. It's something someone wants to talk about. If you go to the larger conferences, and I have spoken at some of them in the past, you might get a few people who are there because they've been invited to speak and fortunately not charged to, but also not paid to. But most of them are there to do sales pitches.
Yeah.
No, advertising's free. I can get that anywhere. Why would I go to a conference free or paid in order to get more advertising when I've got community groups, I've got online groups, I've got all sorts of ways to meet people now. I've got all sorts of ways to actually have the conversations that matter and listen to people speaking about things that matter. And the way they seem to be doubling down on it is to add more and more sponsored speakers because they're struggling to fill up slots, which just drives people away. It's a weird cycle where I cannot understand what the thinking behind it is.
Well, it comes down to it's a business model, right? It's the organisations, and I know we're talking about InfoSec here, and just for clarity, I have paid the £50. I'm going to go this year, but that's because fortuitously I'm also speaking at the Digital Construction Week event, which is also in the same building pretty much on the same day as or one of the days that InfoSec is. So I paid the money, but I recognise that this is a business model now. That I've never had a stand at InfoSec or any of these large events, but I've had them call me, and they've said the words to a Yorkshireman, "It's only £20,000 to have a stand," and I'm like, you do know you're talking to a Yorkshireman. You should never put the word "only" in front of pounds, let alone 20,000 of them. To anyone who is at these events, I mean, I should imagine InfoSec aren't really that interested in our opinion, because I would imagine, and I hope, they're getting a lot of heat from the vendors. Because if the vendors are paying 20 grand to have a little stand there, when the footfall is like literally not falling and there's no one turning up because the speakers aren't the level that they were hoping or whatever, or there's just people are walking away in droves because they're paying they refuse to pay the £49, then I would imagine InfoSec and others are going to have to look at their business model, and it is a business model, and that's the sad thing, which is why I am genuinely supportive of the fringe events. It's just that, again, when I look at time versus what am I getting out of it, what's the value of me being there? Can I contribute to that group? Will I gain any transformation? Will I get anything from that group? Some of them, yes. Some of them, not so much. So I'm very selective about events, whether they're mainstream or not. But the fringe events, I would agree with everyone on this podcast, is that I think those events are driven by passion and enthusiasm rather than good old folding coin, So it's the monetary push for it. I think that's the thing that irks a lot of us, I guess. I mean, for me anyway.
Going to say, on regard to the £50 fee, are they trying to generate revenue to pay Nico Hulkenberg as the keynote speaker? Just saying, that is not going to be cheap to have the likes of a current Formula One racing driver as a keynote speaker.
But I'm gonna ask it. I'm gonna say it. The producer has always said to me, "You need to be more controversial on this." Everybody always agrees with you, and you need to kind of like thought, why in the name of gods have we got a guy is he?
He's a Formula One racing driver, Nico Hulkenberg. He's speaking at InfoSec on the Tuesday.
About what?
Yeah, you tell me.
What about?
Yeah.
He's not an InfoSec professional. There's plenty of really good ones. There's there's you guys. It's not me. I mean, nobody wants me. Nobody invites me to anything, But I mean, let's be honest. What is that meant to be a hook? Is that meant to get you to stump up 50 quid?
I have no idea who that was. I mean, Lisa mentioned the name. I'm thinking, what? He's either CISO of some large security company, or is he an ex-hacker from around, from off distant shores?
Mitnick level hacker.
And I'm like,
he's a current Formula One racing driver.
Amazing.
Well, whoop-de-doo. We're going to learn a lot from that keynote speech. And it's probably been written for him by AI, because let's face it. I mean, I do lament. And to be honest, I am going to be going to the smaller events. I'm going to try and get up to Gary's event, definitely. I have much better conversations there. And I mean, I didn't stump up 50 quid. I had a lovely vendor who turned around and said, I've got some free tickets. Would you like one? And I said, absolutely. So, I will be there. And I've had a lot of other vendors outside of that who have contacted me. I think it's because they see that, the podcast has gotten as big as it has. We've just hit like 500,000 views in the last 90 odd days. We're getting a lot of views. And I think they see it as a vehicle to sort of build upon their own marketing, because I think they've realized, the amount of money that you spend. Because, I mean, you mentioned, Gary, 25 grand. That's not even for one of the large pitches. That's not even for the really, really well-placed ones. That's one of the ones that's kind of off to the side and around the corner a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I was chatting with another company, similar to mine. I'm very friendly with a lot of the guys in this industry. And they may or may not have been mentioned before, but they've said, all we do is we rent out the pub next door. It's cheaper, even when you're buying everybody beers, and we get more out of it than you do going and putting your pitch up. Because half the time it's students who just want a job, or, the CISOs just don't go in anymore. And I can see what's going to happen. I'm going to go in and with my free ticket, and I'm going to go around and see all these really upset vendors, because the footfall is going to be zero. I mean, there'll be people still going, I'm guessing, but you look at what it was like in the like 2005 or 2006, down in the Olympia, it was stuffed full of people in the industry. You could have all kinds of conversations. You could learn all kinds of stuff from different people. But now it's just like Vendorfest. Cool. Yeah. You're showing me your GRC product. Well, that's going to be useless in about 5 years, because the AI will write that for me and I won't need your product. Maybe I'm just being cynical.
No, and I think I don't. Yeah, I mean, let's be controversial. I don't think this is controversial as such, because I think we all feel it. What's the one thing that is, I think, universally agreed? When you go into a shop, like, I don't know, let's pick a vendor, like Levi, and you walk in and they go, "Are you looking for anything, sir?" You go, "Yeah, I'm looking for some jeans." Like, why do you think I'm in here? What? Can I help you with anything? No, I'm a grown adult. I know what I'm looking for. And it's the same feeling for me, because I'm not into cars, which is just being demonstrated by the earlier conversation about Formula One. If I go, if I go into a car dealership and a salesman walks up to me and says, "What are you looking for?" I'm like, "What do you? A bag of chips. What do you think I'm looking for?" But I don't want to talk to you. But if I am going to talk to you, maybe if I am knowledgeable about this, I want to actually talk to the mechanic who's going to talk to me about the actual vehicle itself. And when we go to conferences, the feeling is, and we see it, I do it. You walk along and you're like, your eyes are to the floor thinking, if I get eye contact with someone, they're going to draw me in and they're going to go, "Oh, Gary, would you like to talk to us about?" And I'm like, no, I'm just trying to make my way down to the coffee lounge.
I know that one. Last time I went, it was when the podcast was kind of popping as well. And the whole gods, I got recognized by tons of vendors and like other people walking around, and it was weird. I've never experienced it. I've always been the silent, the quiet guy with a hat on, just slinking around like Gollum. And, all of a sudden, boom, everyone's like, "Oh, do you want to come over and talk to us? Oh, we've watched your podcast, blah, blah, blah," and all the rest of it. "Oh, can we sponsor?" It's like, oh, God, what? Sorry, who? Just, I just want to get around and have a look. I just want to look.
Can I just return to something? I'd be interested in James and Lisa's views on this as well. But you said something earlier, which I think is really interesting, is that some vendors will say, "Look, it's easier and cheaper for us to hire the pub next door and pay for the beers and such." What you're saying is, and this is the bit that I think a lot of vendors who are putting on these large events are missing, is it's about building relationships. It's about the community. It's not just about, are you here to buy a firewall? Are you here for SOC services? Are you here for GRC or whatever it might be? It's can I trust this person? And that's a lovely thing in our world, in this broader world of digital and AI and such, is that people still buy from people. And I want a relationship. I want to know that I can trust this person, because you're probably going to ask me to invest not just money, but also time and effort and potentially my reputation on spending 10, 20, 50 or £100,000 on this product and service that you're talking about. And I've never met you. Whereas if I go to the pub next door and I hear a technician talk about the technical aspects of a firewall or malware protection or MDR, whatever it might be, then I can have a beer with that person, or, soft drink in my case. But, it's a case of just saying, I want to have a conversation. Can I trust them? And it's about building those relationships. And large vendor events just feel too clinical. You're not going to get that by picking up a pen or a notepad or a squidgy thing or a T-shirt from a stand and then going, yeah, I'll come back later. It's like, nah, I've just got good swag. It's about building relationships. That's, for me, that's what a good event should do.
Gary, coming in on that, I could not agree more. And like James, that's why I much prefer the community events and to do those, the B sides of the world. C sides, you were there, Gary. James, you were there. What a fantastic event that was. And I know it was their first one, but it was absolutely superb from start to finish. That whole day was amazing.
Hopefully people from InfoSec and other large vendor events are listening, and some of the B-side events and other events, fringe events are listening as well, is, my talk was 10 things that Star Wars can teach us about security. So it was a little bit different. It was a bit interesting, a bit fun. And equally, there was plenty of talks that day that just the title was like, I like that. That's an interesting take on it. Whereas a lot of these larger events, you just go along and it's, the top 10 vulnerabilities in your network. It's like, okay. Right.
And half the time the speakers are talking about stuff we already know about.
Yeah. Tell me something new. I genuinely, when I train people to be speakers and to go on stage and own that stage, is you've got to think about the audience. What do you want them to know, feel, or do differently after listening to you? And if you're only going to give information, then with the greatest of respect, just put your PowerPoint slides up on screen, let me read it, and then after 20 minutes, I'll walk away going, well, that was interesting. That was interesting. Didn't know that before. But I want you've got to walk away with a different feeling or do something as a result of listening to someone on stage.
As long as you're not going to do what the head of Microsoft did in that video from way back where he's screaming and running around on the stage like a lunatic.
Yeah, no.
I mean, I'd love to see you do that at your event. Go on, do it.
You've got me thinking now. Now I'm thinking, yeah, there's no need to see my dance moves. There's no, that's it. But back to the Real Cyber Awards and Conference this year, our conference, part of it, will have an 18 rating. And it will be cyber trauma-informed presentations. Because one of the speakers, Dr. Catherine Nibbs, she's a cyber trauma specialist. So she's going to talk about some very, very dark aspects of our online world, which in a broader sense, I wouldn't explore those conversations on a platform like this because I don't know who's listening. But what we can do, we can control that audience when they're there. But that's going to be so interesting and so in-depth that, genuinely, a lot of people I know, myself included, go to the dark web, we know things, we see things, and we experience things. Like Dr. Catherine Nibbs, she sits in her counseling rooms with children and listens to their experiences about being online. So when we talk about online safety, with the greatest of respects to all the experts at our level, great. But I would always defer to Catherine and I would say to her, so what's really happening? And she'll say, this is what children are experiencing. This is what they're feeling. This is what they're telling me. Obviously not disclosing personal data or anything like that and keeping confidentialities. But that is infinitely more interesting than just coming in and saying, these are the OWASP top 10 LLMs that we need to be concerned about.
Well, this is it. I mean, Razorthon's doing an event in Gibraltar around October the 7th. We're just organising it at the moment. And so we've invited a couple of vendors to come along and what have you. It's going to be a sort of small local event. You know, they don't get a lot of events out there, so we're bringing the vendors to them. And we were having a chat with the vendors. And if you are watching vendors, I am going to say something. I might get in trouble, but hey, I get in trouble a lot. We said to them, you know, when you do your presentations, because you'll be able to do your presentations, please don't send up the sales guys. Don't send up the sales pitch. Send up the people who do the work or are in that industry or, you know, have worked on that product that you've got that can actually talk to actual CISOs who are interested, not a PowerPoint presentation with somebody stumbling through it like a lunatic. You know, we want to have good conversations like yourself, Gary. You know, at the end of the day, people want to go to these types of events to be inspired and to have those conversations, not to be sold to. Although I do fear what the vendors are going to say to InfoSec after this one, because I don't think it's going to be positive.
No, I think you're right. I think that is the fear. I mean, Lisa, from your point of view, and James as well, you know, if you were going to InfoSec this year, Lisa, did you say you are going?
I have a ticket. I can't make. And by that I mean actually, I've got a press card, so I was able to actually apply for a ticket without having to pay the £50 fee because I've got a press card. But I can't make the decision to go until closer to the time. And the only reason I will go is, slightly selfishly, I've got a friend that lives not 10 minutes from Excel, and it's a great opportunity to go and see her and spend some time.
Well, you've kind of answered my question. You've kind of answered my question, which was, if you're going, what is your strategy? What is your goal? Is there a goal to go to it?
For me, it's around connecting and catching up with people, although I'd argue I could do that better at community events than I can at InfoSec. And the only thing, which has absolutely nothing to do with cyber, is it's a great opportunity to go and see my good friend who lives very close to the venue. That's it. I can't. So it might just be, do I just not justify the train costs and so on of getting there and all the additional costs, even for that thing of catching up with her, which I can do on a video call anytime anyway.
Are you going, James?
No, I'm not, but it's actually because I'm not available. What I would have been doing if I would have been going along, not going into the conference. I've got people I want to meet there. I've got some people who are actually exhibiting there where I want to talk to some of their staff. They've agreed before to happily wander out and meet me outside because I just don't want to deal with going in. So, yeah, it's very much it's not worth my time. I mean, it's not worth my time. It's not worth the money for the ticket. It wouldn't be worth the money if it was free, because going in there is such a hostile, crowded environment. I'd rather meet someone for a coffee outside.
It is an interesting thing you've just said there. I mean, it'll be interesting to see if it's crowded this time. But you've just said absolutely the right word there, time. The most valuable resource available to anyone is time. And that, again, is when I'm training consultants like us and to go on stage and own that stage. And typically I'm training technicians for the very reason that James mentioned earlier, is that you want technicians on stage, not the salesperson. And I want them to have a voice. And quite often they're like, I don't want to do public speaking. It's not what I'm about. It's like, no, we need you on stage because we've had enough of the salespeople, but we want you to speak with passion and enthusiasm for the topic that you've got. And this is advice to every speaker I always give, is just remember, it's the audience are giving you the most valuable thing that they have, not their money, but their time. So make it, do your work, make sure you prepare for that presentation, make sure you understand what the audience's needs are. And I just don't think vendors really give it any kind of credence, that sort of level of thought.
They used to.
Yeah,
not anymore.
Yeah, no, because it's now a business model. It's now, as you said earlier, now large organizations have just gone, there's a lot of money. A lot of people seem to be interested
in money.
This.
Money.
Yeah.
You know what I suggest to a lot of these events runners? Why don't you actually engage with me, Lisa, Gary, and James, and we will actually make your event work. We will actually advise you on what you need to do to draw in the crowds. Because what you're doing at the moment is obviously not working if you're having to charge 50 quid. If you don't book, because it was free initially, but obviously about a month or so beforehand, it topped over to 50 quid. Rather than relying on people stumping up 50 quid, because they're not going to, they're not at the level you want them to, why don't you actually kind of make it engaging, as Gary and James and Lisa have said, make it engaging rather than, a racing driver.
I was just going to say that. He's like,
is he going to race in his racing car?
Who thought that you could just tell that the person with the loudest voice on that committee loves Formula One and would like, what, we've got a budget. Do you think we could get like a Formula One? It's like, I don't know, someone being a massive Taylor Swift fan saying, but maybe we could get Taylor Swift to do a video. Or, it's like, but you just, what?
Taylor Swift would be a good choice. We've got Swift on security.
I agree. Funnily enough, Taylor Swift could talk about the fact that she had to cancel a number of concerts because of the bomb threat, and also it's like incident management. You've actually, there's a link right there. So that's my Seasides talk. What Taylor Swift can teach us about security. Sorry, carry on.
There you go.
I want to push back on that though, because I don't want to engage with these large conferences to tell them how to add value, because I don't think it's possible. There's an issue that quality doesn't scale. My answer to how do they actually add value would be, well, you take your massive oversized conference and you split it into 100 smaller events and you space them around and you target them at appropriate audiences instead of trying to capture everyone, and you select the appropriate vendors for those and you select the appropriate talks and you break it up. You don't try and just make it massive for the prestige. You actually make it small and targeted and tailored. And that's how you engage. You can't do it at size.
Agreed, James. And also, don't we just have a plethora now of events? Every day, my inbox is full with invites to this event, that event. Come to this conference. Come to this roundtable. Come to this dinner. We are oversaturated. We really are with events. We could be now going to something. InfoSec years ago used to mean something. It was the big event of the year. We are so saturated now with events and conferences. And as Gary rightly said, time, absolutely valuable. We could be going to something every day of the week if we were so minded. It's insane the amount that's out there. Sorry, I was on my soapbox then.
I think you're absolutely right. And to tie those two things, what you've just said there and what James just said, these events, there used to be a phrase, networking is not working. And I think that's the problem, that, we could, like you said, you could fill our diaries up and salespeople could come back and say, I've been to 20 events this month. And you're like, so what have you done? What, have you got any sales? Have you done anything? It's like, no.
How many leads did you get?
Yeah.
How many leads did you get? How many meetings have you had? How many conversations? How many whatever? But interestingly enough, what James said, and I would support him on this, is, first of all, I'm up for talking to anyone. As my wife will attest, I will turn up to the opening of an envelope if you want to talk to me about security. And I will happily talk to InfoSec or whoever and tell them where they're going wrong. Conversely, they could just come to the Real Cyber Awards and Conference in October, in York, 30th of October. I'll just throw that in there. No, but the point is, they've got lessons to learn, and I'd be more than happy to talk to them about it. But to James' point, interestingly enough, like in Leeds, you have the Leeds Digital Week, which is just a week full of events, small events, popping up all around, and it's on a website, and it's all these free talks at pubs. An accountant or a law firm might open up their offices and run an event, and they just pop up for a week, just lots of different small events. Leeds Digital Week. That kind of thing is brilliant because it brings all those fringe events into one place. They still have sponsors.
Yeah.
But it's to James's point, you can go, oh, well, I want to learn about human risk management, so I'm going to go to that. Or I want to learn about offensive defense. It's like, I'll go to that event, or I do want to learn a little bit more about OWASP or GRC. There's 2 different events, right? Which one am I going to go to? They're the kind of things that definitely get more engagements, I think, and having that consolidated in a city or in a central location, I think is genius. I think it's a great idea.
Gary, we have exactly this. We have Worcestershire Tech Fest in February, very similar to Leeds Digital Week. It's around about a week to 10 days of events exactly like that at different organisations, different venues across the county. Brilliant few days of stuff, real value in that.
Yeah, but not vendor-led. That's the key thing.
No.
Times are changing. Marketing has changed. I mean, look at webinars. We do much better than any webinar ever with this podcast nowadays. We're not trying to sell stuff like a lot of other podcasts out there. And we probably get more engagement than InfoSec's going to get this year. Let's be honest. Anyway, our time has come to an end. And it's been absolutely fantastic talking to you guys all and about, fringe events, big events, small events, the fact that, events are starting to charge and that kind of thing. It's very important, and I'll report back on how it goes. I mean, I will try to meet up, Gary, with you down there. Did you say you were going?
Yes, yeah, I'll be there the 2nd and 3rd.
Some beers will be had, and I'll look forward to seeing you, Lisa, as well. But obviously, James, you're not going, so I'll have to meet you another time at another event.
Any B-sides?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I'm not sure if I'm going. I literally won't know until probably the weekend to even the Monday before if I'll go or not. So, yeah, I'll have to see.
If you're there, I look forward to seeing you. If you're not, we'll catch up another time. But for all of you out there, thank you ever so much. We have been seeing significant amounts of traction. It's really, really good. The reason we started this podcast was we could actually get some proper conversations going outside of the vendor land, and it seems to be working. So thank you to all of you in the US, the UK, Europe, South Africa, and the UAE who spend a lot of time checking out our podcast. We never thought we would get this big. So thank you ever so much for all of that. And we will be bringing you all kinds of new content over the next God knows how long. We've got a long list and portfolio of things that people have DM'd me via LinkedIn or sent through the website. So if you want to mention something that you want us to talk about, maybe I can grab some of these fantastic people to come back and discuss this important aspect of what we're trying to do, just get in contact and we'll make it happen. But for all of you out there, thank you very much. Have a great day. And maybe I'll see you at InfoSec. See you later.